Welcome to Season 3 of The Power of Potential, a podcast hosted and produced by St. Rose High School in Belmar, New Jersey. The show is dedicated to helping parents navigate the world of private education while showcasing the potential of its students, teachers, and alumni. St. Rose High School has been empowering potential since 1923. Now, here are your hosts, Junior Ariana Simon and Senior Chelsea Legata.
Welcome back to another episode of the Power of Potential podcast. I'm Mariana Simon.
And I'm Chelsea Legata.
And today is an exciting episode. So it's episode 2 of our season, and it is the Puffs podcast episode. That's like a tongue twister, Puffs podcast. So do you guys all want to introduce yourself and your part?
Sure, we'll go down the line. So I'm Sophia Kafarsky, and I'm playing Oliver Rivers.
I'm Shannon White. I'm playing Megan Jones.
I'm Dan Martin. I'm playing Wayne Hopkins.
I'm Mr. Henderson, and I play the director.
I'm Ariana, obviously, and I play Hannah and Xavier and the first headmaster.
And I'm Chelsea. I play the narrator. And for those of you who probably don't know the play, these three are our main trio.
So think like Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the original J.K. Rowling version of Harry Potter. And now Puffs is a parody of Harry Potter. And it basically follows these three and the rest of the Puffs through their 7 years of magic at Hogwarts. It's like just a school
of magic and magic.
Yes. A fun show. It's very fast. The show goes by very quickly, and everyone's kind of always on stage.
Yes.
And then when they're not, they're kind of waiting to go on stage.
Yeah. When we're not on stage, we're either waiting to go on stage or we're running to get to the other side of the stage so we can get back on stage.
Yeah. Luckily, none of you have to make fast, quick changes, but some other members of the cast do, and I feel bad. Mine aren't that bad. But there's a little.
We do have one cast member who has, 11 roles?
It's 11.
Yeah.
11 roles.
Yeah. I feel so sorry for her. She's a freshman, it's her first show, and she got saddled with 11 parts.
It's just like, there's just a lot of little roles in the show. It's like, there's a lot of just one-liners and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you switch roles without even leaving the stage.
Right.
Yes.
You just take a hat off and put a wig on, or vice versa, put a cape
There's a
on.
couple of fun moments like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun. Well, I mean, little spoiler alert, we found out yesterday that you get to play the snake.
Yes, there is a snake that I will be playing.
So there's just fun little things like that in the show. So now that we've kind of introduced the show, Mr. Henderson, why don't you talk a little bit about why you chose Puffs?
I tried to do Puffs in 2019 when we ended up doing Baskerville, which was really fun. I had applied for Puffs but got denied because a professional group was doing it. It's a play I've always enjoyed but didn't know a whole lot about. I don't really like the professional video that you can watch of it from off-Broadway, but I like the script a lot. And I'm a huge fan of the original books. It's also tricky because we can't use any of the official licensed lingo from the 7 books / 8 movies that this is all based on. But we can say, J.K. Rowling wrote 7 books, and I listened to them all on audiobook every fall, and so it just seemed like a good time to do the show. And I like doing these shows where all the actors get to play various parts and do lots of silly things, and we can add music and sound effects and all kinds of fun things to just make it really unique. And I think this very much follows in the same vein of Baskerville and the 39 Steps, but I think this one is even more absurd than those two.
Yeah, it's
exciting.
I feel like it's more outwardly absurd than 39 Steps.
Definitely.
39 Steps is much more coded jokes, and you have to understand this is this is funny, but it's also funny jokes that are intelligent too.
Right.
And I think even if you haven't read Harry Potter or seen the movies, you'll understand the show.
Yes.
A few people in our cast have never seen Harry Potter. And they are well, this is funny. And then sometimes there's more, I guess, secret jokes that maybe you don't get right away. But if you get a little, oh, okay, this is what's going on in the scene, it makes sense.
Well, because it has its own plot that is following its own story. It's like a story that's happening in the background of the plot of the 7 novels about the Puffs, which are the outcasts / misfits / underdogs of the school. that have their own kind of adventure at the same time that overlaps with the story you know really well about Harry and Ron, and they call her Hermione in our play, and they're fighting Mr. Voldy instead of the name you might know better.
I feel like the name changes are so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them have like Ron Mop.
Yeah,
Ron
Ron
Mop.
Mop is the best
Ron is just a
character in
mop.
the whole show.
He's not a person, he's just a mop now. Yeah.
No, because it's all, and Harry is so much more outwardly ridiculous than he's ridiculous in the books. If like you actually look at him and go, this is a real person, that thing is like the chosen one is kind of ridiculous. And they play into that. And that's sort of the whole theme of the show is Harry Potter is serious, but if you really look at it, there's a lot of funny things that weren't intentional. And now Puffs kind of plays into that. What did each of you want to be in the show?
Oh, I didn't have any preferences. I initially thought I wanted to be the narrator, but after auditions, I read as Wayne, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I want to do this, but I really didn't have any strong preferences. I was more interested in what everyone else was gonna get, because I was like, there's so many possibilities here. Like,
Yeah, the fan casts were very fun to look at.
yes,
Yeah, us
there were a lot
making
of them.
like
Yes.
random cast lists of a million roles for each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, Shan?
So when I found out we were doing Puffs, I originally wasn't gonna audition, but then I had 2 theater dreams, and that prompted me to do it. So I obviously, before auditions happened, I'm crazy. So I watched the show a lot of times, and I watched different versions of it, and I found different scripts. And I really liked Megan, but I just never thought that I would get her. So I kind of just put down like Leanne and other side characters. But yeah.
So I really didn't have a preference at all. But before I did watch a version of Puffs, and there's this one character, he's really funny. He has like a couple lines, Zach Smith, and I thought I would love to be him. He's so funny. But and then during auditions, I read for Wayne in one scene, and I thought, wow, I could do him pretty well. But I kept that in the back of my head. I didn't really say anything about it. And I was cast as him, and I'm like, oh, this works really well. But yeah, I didn't really have a preference. All the characters are really funny. They all have their moments. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah. I was like, well, I read the script and I went, I like the narrator, but I like everyone else too. Like, everyone's really funny and they all have
Yeah,
really
exactly.
good moments. It's like, I don't really care. I was like, I'll put the narrator and anything else except Cedric. I did not want to be Cedric. I was like, no, not Cedric. I don't like Cedric in the original books or movies. So I was like, I didn't like him in the script. He's funny and he has his like purpose. And I think Sarah, who is playing Cedric, is going to do an amazing job. I was like,
Oh yeah.
no. But other than that, I was like, whatever. And now I really like playing Xavier. We haven't even gotten to any like staging for her, but I already am like, I want to like caress Wayne and Oliver as I walk past them. Like, I'm very excited.
Well, we were doing the blocking the other day, and the stage direction says that Xavier has to make like crazy faces at the audience, and Ariana is standing there making crazy faces, and she's like crying, laughing, and the rest of us can barely get through what we're supposed to do because she looks so funny.
Well, I was looking at like videos for Xavier and like different productions, and there was one production where this woman literally just makes the most absurd faces I've ever seen. I was like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. And so I'm very happy. I think we're all really happy with our parts.
Yeah.
What about you, Chelsea?
Oh, mine was a journey. Because when I found out we were doing Puffs, I had never heard of it. But
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
well,
I saw it, but
the
I
only
didn't.
person I had heard of it from was Sammy, who was the Ariana's co-host last year, who we had talked about it, and she mentioned that, oh, maybe you guys will do Puffs for the fall drama.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it until it got announced, and I was like, she predicted this. And then I read like a Wikipedia summary of it, and I was like, I really don't know like what role I want to be. Like, I would just love to be like any of like the background characters. And then we got the script, and I started reading through the script, and I was like, I have to be the narrator. And then I was like, well, but there's also like these other like side roles that I think I would like too, like Professor Sprouty or Xavier. And then we auditioned, and I read for Cedric in one scene, and I was like, oh, maybe I'd like to be Cedric. Like, it seems pretty fun. And then I got the narrator. I was like, this is this is the role that I originally wanted, and I was like, this is good. This
Dream
is
achieved.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like we all like said the same thing basically. We didn't really care because the whole show is such a good time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every role is funny. There isn't like a bad. I feel like there isn't like a boring character.
There are no boring characters. There are no bad roles. Everybody is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Even like Harry, who they kind of like poke fun at the whole time. I feel like even like Harry, like even though he's like his character is not very similar to like what it was in like the original movies, but like it's kind of similar to like if anyone has seen like Potter Puppet Pals, his character in Puffs is very similar to Harry's character in Potter Puppet Pals.
Yeah, kind of like a goody two shoes about everything, and yeah.
Like,
Very
Narcissist,
exactly.
big ego.
Narcissistic and, like,
Yeah.
very just like very comedic.
very, very pretty princess about the whole chosen
Yeah.
one thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like obviously I'm the chosen one.
Exactly.
Can't
Yeah.
obviously. So the whole show is set in the 90s. So, Mr. Henderson, can you talk a little bit about what you think the set's going to look like?
The set will be pretty basic. It'll just be a raised platform. We'll have a spiral staircase. Maybe some other little pieces. I love using steamer trunks because they always look fun in different configurations. And then I'm hoping I can kind of paint most of it yellow and then graffiti different symbols that are significant to the story, like an owl, a coat of arms with an H in it, glasses, lightning bolts, that kind of stuff, and hang those black and yellow pennants that you would see like over a swimming pool, draping across the stage to make it look very themed for the house that the show is about.
You said steamer trunks, and I had flashbacks to the train scene in the 39
Steps.
Steps.
That's all I'm
I'm thinking,
Yeah, no
how are we
train
going to
scenes in
move
this
them? How are we going to move the steamer trunk? That was heavy last time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that scene was a disaster during tech creep.
Moving them wasn't
Yeah.
the problem. It was like opening the suitcases. Like they're kind of old. I just struggled so much opening those.
Yeah.
One of
No.
them got stuck to the stage.
Yeah.
Yes,
The paint, yeah.
because the paint was still like
Like,
half wet,
And
we
it
were
was
like,
it was the biggest one that was really heavy.
Yeah.
yes.
Like going off of that, obviously when we put a show together, it isn't always smooth sailing. Like there definitely are struggles. And how do, like, I know when I'm upset and this isn't working right, I like get very in my head about it. I'm like, this is my fault. I'm not doing this right. And then I have to, Sammy last year was very good about being like, stop. You're going to make it worse by doing that. Stop. And I was like, okay, yeah, I need to like take a moment and like breathe. How does everyone deal with like struggles when we're staging or memorizing lines?
Usually if I get frustrated over something, I'll force myself to just step away for a minute, because I know if I keep working on it, I'm not going to get it right if I'm frustrated while I'm working on it. So I'll step away, I'll take a break, and then I'll come back, I'll do it again. And then memorizing lines, I hate to say this because it sounds like it makes me sound like such a jerk, but I've really never had a problem memorizing lines. So I don't know.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, like I'm absolutely obsessed with this show and the script, so I'm like reading through the script like every night, and I feel
Exactly,
like
yeah.
memorization just comes really easy to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like if you just like read it a bunch of times, like it's just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially like once we start the staging, connecting like the staging to the line
Yeah, the
helps a lot
movement.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then when you're reading it at home, you can just like walk around the way you're supposed to be, and it
Yeah.
fits a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Shan?
I've never really like struggled with like getting frustrated when like with staging, but usually if stuff like that happens, where if I just like can't get a line right, or if I'm kind of confused with staging, I'll like take a step back and think about what would Megan do, what would my character do. It just makes more sense, because once you get into their mindset, it makes sense what they do.
Yeah.
And for memorizing lines, I don't really have an issue with that either. I have 128 lines in this show, and
Knows exactly the number.
Wow.
Well, okay,
Well, because there's a
she was using a
Quizlet.
Quizlet.
I
yeah,
have all the lines in
Oh,
them.
that's cool.
yeah,
We've been studying.
and I have 125 of them done, so I gotta get those last 3. But I don't know, I love theater and this stuff, so I'm like obsessing over it, and I'm just really good at memorization, so it helps.
I've really never struggled. I usually have a lot of lines, like every fall drama. I mean, small lines. And then this show, I have one huge like monologue, you could say. The rest of them are just small lines, but I've never really struggled. Occasionally, if I'm feeling uncertain, I just read them over at home and do my best to memorize them. It kind of comes naturally to me. But yeah, I don't really struggle that much. Just happy to be doing it.
I feel like reading it over and over and over again and thinking about the way that the scene flows helps too. Like, it's like my bedtime stories now. I'm literally just reading all of my lines and going through all the scenes before I fall asleep. And that's really helpful too. Like, during the 39 steps, I had more roles and it was harder. But they were all very, very different. Like, Hannah and Xavier are very different, and so is the first headmaster. But they're all in, like, the same world, whereas in the 39 steps when I was sheriff and the crofter and the milkman, it wasn't like they were all in the same world in, like, you know what I mean? They're all have very different,
they're all very different people.
Yeah. And so when I'm looking at my lines for this show, I'm like, okay, so Hannah does this and she has a totally different voice than Xavier and the first headmaster, and that's also helpful, like making them distinct from each other. Like, I'm sure Bridget, who has 11 parts, is doing the same thing. And I know Chloe is, who is playing Leanne and Ginny. It's making them different in your mind so that you're not getting lost in which one's which and where does that line go. I think that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I think the person with the hardest job is you, Chelsea, because you are the same person the whole time, pretty much.
Yeah.
And just keeping your entrances and exits straight, not even thinking about your lines, that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that the script doesn't say
narrator
exits or enters,
the
it just
thing
says
that bothers
narrator.
me most is in the script, there's a lot of like the narrator enters, but there's nowhere that says where the narrator exits.
Right.
So I'm just like
Standing
it's
there,
really-
and then you come back on again. There's the show,
And
there's
then there's,
27
like,
narrators.
I have like a line and then there's like an entire scene and there's nowhere where it says that like I exit or anything, and then I have like another line at the end of the scene and it's like, am I just like standing somewhere in the corner for the whole time or?
Yeah. Also, the narrator is sort of like in the story but not.
Yeah.
And it's so
It's strange because like the narrator is not just the narrator is definitely like very opinionated. Like, it's not just someone who's telling the story. Like, they have like opinions on things.
It's sort of like Rod Serling in The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
In and out narrator commenting on the action the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really fun to watch you play the narrator. And like everybody, I love, like, Chloe and I are always pretty much off at the same time. So like in rehearsals, we're sitting there watching the scenes and I'm like, this is so fun. I can't wait for everyone to like see it fully done. We're not just like, instead of standing in the little theater stage hallway, but like on the actual stage. It's so I'm always so sad that we can't see it from like the audience perspective when we're in it. Like when in Seussical, during Solace Lu, when we got to like be out in the audience and seeing it, I was like, I cried every night. But besides that, I just like loved having that experience. And I always ask my mom or my dad after they see it, and I go, so what did it look like? What was it like from your perspective? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, like, what did you see?
It's good, and you're like, that's not what I'm
asking. That was not helpful. Like, I hate hearing myself talk. Like, I've never listened to one of these podcast episodes all the way through. But
Confessions.
Yeah, sorry. My mom has seen them all, don't worry. So has my grandmother, but not me. I literally leave the room. And the same thing with, like, when we all watched the Seussical video together, and I'm like, I can't look. I can't hear myself. I can't look. But I still, like, want to know what it looked like. So I wish I could, like, be there and not be there. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, like, my weird thing.
Yeah.
We were talking about that, like the not liking yourself talking.
Yeah,
thing.
it's like, I remember like when we were watching the Suzuka video, like everybody who was there, we would like all cringe whenever we would see ourselves on there.
I know. I feel like that's something that is like kind of sad that we all do that.
Yeah.
But we're also like critical of ourselves. But when you get to watch your friends be great, it's like such a nice thing. I feel like it's like, inspiring to watch from the side and see everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What is everyone most excited for the audience to see in the show? Like, don't like spoil anything, but
Mr. Voldy's monologue towards the end of the show.
I was gonna say
I'm
that.
very excited to see
Say that.
Sarah say that in the Voldemort voice. I think that's going to be hilarious.
I think that's like also one of my most looked forward to parts. I can't wait to see it. I wasn't there during the read through, so I'm like so excited to hear her do it the
Right.
first time.
It's very funny.
What about you, Shannon?
I'm excited to see if the jokes like land and hit, and I'm also excited to see like everybody get into the whole world, that magical world that we all know. So yeah,
The name of which we are forbidden to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think just the whole show itself is just something so exciting to see.
There's so many bits and pieces. It's like it's really hard to pick.
There's so
one.
many scenes. There's
much
so
that's
many
good.
little lines. There's so many jokes that have to land. It's just
I do
big.
feel like this show is very like there's a lot of jokes, a lot of comedy in it. And I know for me, like it becomes very dramatic very quickly. And I know for me, probably one of my favorite moments in the show is like towards the end, I have a line that like I do have one line like right at the end that is very like sweet. And
Yeah.
it's just a very nice moment in the show because like the whole thing it's like there's a lot of comedy and then there's a lot of drama and to like kind of end it there's just a very sweet moment
Yeah.
in the end that kind of just like feel like wraps it all up in a nice bow.
Yeah. I feel like with Xavier, she's a villain, but she has this like really funny ending bit that it like, and I'm not gonna spoil it because my mom's gonna watch this and I told her I wouldn't tell her what happens, so she can't know. She has to watch it for the first time, but she has this moment with Megan and I like cried when I read it the first time, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so like my heart, and I love that little like bit at the end, and it's not like the biggest deal in the whole show, but it's fun and it's fun to do. Anyway.
I like the scene with Wayne at the end where I don't remember the exact line, but another character says to him something along the lines of, "You're not the hero of this story, but you're the hero of someone's story."
Yeah.
That's kind of like the message of the whole show. You might not be the main character of the whole story, but you're a hero to someone.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, my heart.
Yeah.
Like the whole like ending of the show is very sweet, and I think it ties it up really well. Way better than the actual Harry Potter books are tied up in the end.
Yeah.
Like I think that this show, because the characters are so connected and everyone's so connected, that we have the ending is much sweeter and more heartfelt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really like the show because it's really, really, really funny. And it's even funnier if, you know, like me, you're a nerd and you've watched, like, you know, every Star Wars movie, read all of Lord of the Rings, and, like, you get all of the jokes and references. And then at the end, it ends up, like, being this really sweet story about, like, friendship and heroism. Like, you know, you don't have to be the chosen one to be a great person.
Yeah. And I feel like that's very heartwarming and also just like a great thing to carry with you when you leave the show through. And I hope that everyone that comes to see it enjoys it and that they take that message with them to the next day. So I feel like that was a really good episode.
Yeah.
We talked, and it was a really good ending to talk about the ending of the show. So tickets go on sale.
They're on sale now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Link is live.
They went live. There's a link on the Instagram. So if you
srhs.booktix.com. Is that right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's it.
Wow.
Memorize that.
I've been in too many shows here.
It's on every poster. So we hope you come and see it. So it's November 4th at 7:30, and then the 5th at 2 and 7:30. So it should be a good time. 3 shows, which is always nice. I like doing 3 shows.
Yes.
So thank you guys for being on. Good episode.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you for listening to the Power of Potential podcast, episode 2. I'm Ariana Simon.
And I'm Chelsea Legata.
Have a nice day.